With Trump's return to the White House confirmed, Chinese state media reported on Xi Jinping's congratulatory message. What can you read from that message, Wenchi?
Well, I don't think the message has been anything different than past messages. They always focus on cooperation rather than confrontation. I think, obviously they're still hoping for a new opportunity to engage with the Trump administration, especially because of Trump's unpredictability, right? People were speculating that if it was a Harris administration, then probably she would have continued the Biden administration policy, which means there wasn't that much room for change. However, with Trump, there might be some opportunity for something different, even though Trump 1.0 was the first administration that sort of shifted the U.S. attitude towards China. But given, Trump is such a negotiator and a business sort of a transaction-oriented person, so I've heard that, some people actually think there may be a new kind of opportunity for U.S.-China relationship.
Fang-yu, when she talked about the unpredictability aspect of Trump, how scared do you feel China is, and how do you balance that with the opportunity that comes with a different administration?
Well, I think Xi Jinping's message is nothing more than a diplomatic language. And we see China still holding a double-handed strategy. We see that the spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in the U.S. has a very strong message to warn the U.S., and we can predict that the U.S.-China relations will remain the same. So basically, there's a consensus, in the U.S., especially both parties will perceive China as the threat. That will remain the same. So I don't see there is not a lot of opportunity for a change of this structure. But there might be some change on the policies, for example, the tariffs on different fields. So maybe there's another strategy of the U.S. to strengthen the alliance of the Indo-Pacific countries. So there might be some changes there, but the structure of the U.S.-China competition will remain the same.
When she's speaking of tariffs, Trump did say that he could impose 100 or to 200%, or we're not sure how high they are. Do you feel that is a likely outcome of a Trump 2.0 administration when it comes to China?
Well, first of all, I think he wants to impose tariffs on a lot of countries. It's not just China. He's even mentioned that towards Taiwan and European countries, UK, etc. So actually during his very last major interview before the election was with Joe Rogan, a very popular show. He said that tariffs is the most beautiful tool, right? He loves it because in some way it forces other countries to invest in the United States. And he used that to criticize the Biden administration's CHIPS Act. He was saying that, for example, the Biden administration actually had to subsidize companies like TSMC in order to invest in the United States. But if you just impose tariffs on them, they will have to come to the U.S. to invest rather than receiving subsidies. So I think in his mind, what he really wanted is foreign investment into the United States. Whether he's going to impose, 100%, 200%, or 60%, I don't know if he knows the details, but the ultimate goal is to have foreign investment in the U.S.
Fang-yu, in having more investment in the U.S., as Wenchi mentioned, do you feel there is concern for companies like TSMC that have been beneficiaries of the Biden CHIPS Act in terms of expanding manufacturing in Arizona?
Well, I think the TSMC and other high-tech companies will have their own policies of investment because every investment project will involve in millions, billions of dollars. So the subsidy is actually just a small portion of each project. So I think whether there's a subsidy or not, it will not influence the project of investment in the U.S. And also we should see that the investment project also considers the demands of their customers, I mean TSMC's customers in the US and other places. So in this regard, if there's a tariff on the product, then some of the US consumers or the US companies will also be harmed by the tariff. So there will be a negotiation of the US government and TSMC and other high-tech companies, and also all of the companies in the supply chain will be influenced. So there will be a lot of actors involved in this kind of negotiations.
So you're saying that Taiwan shouldn't be too worried in terms of what will happen with the tariffs?
Well, I think that we should not be too worried. And because TSMC still holds a very advanced position on the manufacturing of the chips, so maybe they can decide their own project. And also because the any tariff plan just involve too many different companies, so it will have to do a long process of evaluation and negotiation between different departments. So I think maybe we should wait and see how this will work.
Wenchi, in terms of concerns that we see here in Taiwan, they've been talking about Elon Musk, which is a confidant of Donald Trump, and there have been talks about Starlink and how Elon Musk could affect, Trump and his policy. What do you say to that? Do you feel that Taiwan should be concerned, given the influence that Musk could have on the new administration?
I don't know if Taiwan should be concerned or not, because I think Elon Musk's interest is so vast, and at least on the campaign trail, he's been primarily focused on just, bringing reforms into the government, creating an efficiency committee, and more domestic issues. And so I don't think he's ever addressed foreign policy issues, not that I'm aware of. And he's refrained from talking about China as well. I haven't heard him talking about Taiwan. So that's my assumption, that his influence and his interests will primarily be focused on domestic issues. Although one thing on EVs that's quite interesting, because Tesla has, depends on a huge supply chain in China. And so, right now the Biden administration's policy is literally, to restrict any Chinese EVs coming into the United States. So, whether that's going to change or not, going back to sort of Trump wants to see foreign investment in the United States, some people say, well, the Chinese EVs can invest a lot in the U.S., which can yield a lot of domestic jobs. And is that something Trump wants to see, or he wants to protect American automobile companies? That I feel like that's something, it'll be interesting to see. And maybe that's where Elon Musk will have some influence.